Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mindful Marathon Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I'm a pediatrician and a run coach and the founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a super special guest with me, and I can't wait for you all to meet her. If you don't know her yet, she is Dr. Errin Weisman. She is one of a kind, openly speaks about her experience of professional burnout early in her family medicine career. She podcasts, speaks, lives life, and practices medicine again in rural Southwestern Indiana. Besides being sassy, which you will see, she enjoys getting mud on her shoes, teaching her children to catch tadpoles, and reading a great fantasy novel. And she is a runner and an athlete. So welcome to the show, Dr. Errin Weisman.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dr. Michelle.
Very happy to talk to you always.
Yes, yes.
So tell us, so I didn't know that you were a collegiate athlete until you told me that
hmm
last month when we were at the ACE conference. So tell me about that. What was your athletic career like? And then we can talk about the present.
Absolutely. So I'm from Indiana. Basketball's always a big deal, but actually I didn't play as much. I did a whole bunch of other sports. So volleyball, I ran indoor track, I ran outdoor track. I did a little bit of powder puff football. I was a wrestling manager and then a student PT trainer as well. So I did a
Wow.
lot of
Okay. You
things.
did a lot of
Yeah,
things.
a
Okay.
lot
All
of
right.
things.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit maybe about running as an adult, maybe your relationship with running as an adult.
Yes. So in college, I played volleyball and soccer, and it was one of those that running was just a part of that athletic career. Then I went to medical school and I got a dog because I was by myself and I wanted somebody to run with and to exercise with. He was 100% a walker. And
Okay.
so Linus, the one eyed Westie Wonder, taught me how to walk. And it pissed me off so bad. I always need that like top 10% burned off, whether it's anxiety or if it was like just drowsiness from being in class all day or, just wanting to get out and that sort of thing. And so I can say that's honestly where I started to see a shift in my athletic life because he too needed the exercise, but there was no way in hell that I was going to be able to drag him and run. So we walked a lot and we got to know Kansas City a lot and a lot of the different places that are around the metro. And then I got pregnant with our first child right at the end of medical school. And of course, I was going to have the healthiest pregnancy ever, on top of being a fourth year medical student and then, of course, a first year family medicine resident. And did a 5K while I was pregnant and tried to do a 7K when I think I was like 5 or 6 months pregnant and realized like this is just not going to work anymore.
Mhm.
But being the like super type A, put my head down, go into the wall, like I was like, no, I will make my body do this type of thing on top of being on call and running the wards and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Until I went into premature contractions, and my OBGYN was then like, you're done. You are finally done with that. Um, and continuing on, continue to try to exercise through residency is brutal. I beat myself up about like, you should get a workout. You should be running, all shitting all over myself
Yes.
until I got out into like practice and found a great exercise class that I started to go to, and the class size dwindled, and then it just became me and the instructor. And comes to find out, that was my new best friend that I was getting to know in those classes. So it was really great to do hit exercise, and we still do CrossFit, specifically designed for women. But it was around that time as well, after the birth of my third child. In practice, you guys can go to my website and found out all about my burnout story, that my body was really starting to fall apart. And I thought that it was the burnout. I thought it was the working so much, for such long periods of time. But then when I started to make a shift in my life, life was better. I was working less. I had started coaching, like doing all the things, but I still continued to have a lot of chronic symptoms. And I didn't know what was really going on with them. I remember going to my doctor even and saying, like, he's like, well, maybe it's stress. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is the best that I've ever been. Like, life is really, really good. So they did all the typical like lab work and, all that thing. And everything came back fine. Thyroid was fine. Blood work was fine. We even went down the rheumatology route and that was fine. But I
Mhm.
was continuing to have muscle aches, joint pain, extreme fatigue. When I would work out, I mean, I would be just laid out for days on top of things. And that went on for several years until recently, when I've gone through several different physicians, specialists, like trying to figure it out, because like I kept thinking like there is something wrong with me and there is a fix. There must be a fix to this. There's something wrong. I need a pill. I need a diagnosis. And there just wasn't ever one until recently, with a new physician. And they were like, Errin, it's the diagnosis of exclusion, which is fibromyalgia. And that was super hard to stomach for me as a person who has always been able to power through, as the family medicine doctor, to be like, oh, no, 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 no. I do not want that diagnosis. Like, that is not who I am. I am not that type of person, quote unquote,
Mhm.
and had all this judgment around it. And so life has been fundamentally different, now living with some chronic symptoms, chronic pain type stuff. And I have had to overhaul my exercise routine and my running, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm.
It was like losing a member of your family. I mean, there was definitely grief. I went through all 5 stages of it, where I was just pissed off and angry. I was in denial. I was depressed and sad about it. There was bargaining, like, well, maybe if I do this, then it won't be so bad. Until I have finally gotten to a place of acceptance. And there are times when I see a friend like completing. I used to do a lot of Spartan races,
Yeah.
and they're doing the new Spartan race, and I'm like, shit, I wish I was there. I want to do that still. But knowing that I just have some different limitations. And so that's kind of been the journey that I have been through.
Yeah, I mean, so much of your story, I know it will resonate with a lot of listeners out there, but I think one thing that stands out is that we always think it's our fault somehow as a high achiever, like when you were saying you were shooting all over yourself,
Hmm.
that you should be able to do this. And yeah, like not in a place of acceptance of where you were at that time. And I'm definitely guilty of that as well. I remember, I think training probably for the first marathon, like I had that training plan and I wanted to stick to it like 110%. And there was like no flexibility at all. So if I missed a run or if I had to shorten a run, I would be like, well, it was a lot of all or none thinking. Like
Hmm.
if I shorten this long run because I don't have time or I don't feel, I don't feel it, I'm not going to be able to run the race. And I think there's a lot of us out there, type A professionals, who are
Absolutely.
trying to stick to a training plan 110%, and that's just not that. I mean, we're not professional athletes, and I don't even think professional athletes can stick to the plan 110%.
No, they're always pivoting. They're always making changes. They're listening to their body. They're
Yeah.
listening to their schedule. They're listening to their multiple coaches that they have, because they don't have just one,
Yeah.
and making those adjustments. And I think mine came from a place too of wanting to get it right. Like when it came to, and I've really had to learn that like there is no right. There
Yeah.
just is. And what is feasible for me now, um, is different, and it looks different. And I think the other thing too is getting rid of that transactional relationship with exercise and with running. I think is huge. Like, oh, if I don't go for a run, or if I don't work out, then fill in the
Mm-hmm.
blank. Or if I don't do 30 minutes today, then I'll do more tomorrow. Or, like making it very transactional. And even with your rest, being like, oh, I can rest after I get stuff done. It's just a really unhealthy mindset. Yes, it worked for the first
30
39
plus.
years of my life. But then I've hit this stage for the last 5 years that it's just not it's not feasible anymore. And I think that when work is your drug, rest is your detox. And I was translating my workaholism from what I do into every aspect of my life. And I mean, there's a lot of thoughts about what fibromyalgia is, and honestly, we don't know in medicine. We're still trying to figure it out. I think we're probably years or decades away from. I bet it's probably a spectrum of a lot of different conditions, but that's my own thoughts. But it's getting to a place of not measuring your worth on your productivity,
Yeah.
and I had to do that in so many aspects of my life. And particularly what we're talking about today is in our workouts, and not making it like, oh, well, I did 5 miles and I beat my last time and da 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 da. And instead of doing it from a place of like, and this is what I'm doing today, and I love my body and I love myself, and I love myself enough to not like tear the shit up out of my legs and out of my body, and to do it from a place that feels good. So, and I think we've talked about this before, I don't run anymore, and it has been a huge loss for me. I mean, there's occasional running after the kids, but not going out like I would have typically done for like a 3 or 5 or 7 mile run.
Yeah.
Like I have had to go back to like Linus the dog and walk. And so getting creative with that and saying, okay, I can get my heart rate up walking. I can do it in different terrains, which trains different muscles. So I'm a hiker, and I use that so much more. And I've almost found more joy in it because it slows me down. I get to look around and see the things. I can still get into the same flow, like when you're running and you get into that runner's flow. I can get into that hiker's flow at about the same point, at about mile 2, I've noticed. Now, it takes me longer to get there, but it still happens. So I think it's just like having the willingness to adapt, because for so long I was just strong arming it, and I wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah. I remember when you did the 5K in the fall, and I think you did a hike and you got lost. And so the 5K turned into like a 6 mile hike.
Yes, it did. It did. And I posted my time, even though it was like 70 some odd minutes, because I was like, you know what? Maybe somebody else like needs to see that. That like, it's not like a 22-minute 5K, or you know what I mean? Like somebody needs to be like, oh, okay, she did it 70 some odd, and I had a great time, and the dog had a great time, and we weren't so lost that like we wouldn't be found. It was just I miscalculated the miles on that certain trail. So
yeah. No, I loved that. I love that story. And as runners too, I mean, the metrics are, there's too many places to see the math and the numbers, like the watch and the phone, and a lot of us are on Strava, and it's very easy to compare yourself, and on social media people post their times, and it's just it's so much about time and speed and always getting better, but sometimes at the expense of like how are you feeling, what else is going on in your life, can you keep that up? I mean, I think the answer is no.
What's the sustainability in it? And like when does running go from being like therapeutic and positive to negative? And I think I do family medicine, and I also do addiction, and I always tell all of my patients, like, we all are recovering from something. And I mean, I have many friends that used to be athletes with me who, their running kind of is their addiction. And in our society, like, we elevate certain body types and certain types of exercises being like better than others. And so I think it's really easy, just like being a doctor, where it's like, oh yeah, she is always available and works a lot, like things that are harmful to us, but other people around us are patting us on the back for it. I think you have to be really careful about that, and just, I think, stepping back and being like, why am I doing this? And not from a place of like negativity, but from just like curiosity and wonder of like, so why am I making myself run with such bad shin splints today? I can just think about that. Why am I getting up, even though I know sleep is so important to me, to get out at 4 o'clock in the morning? Like really digging into those things, because again, if it's coming from a place that's not sustainable, if it's coming from a place of shoulds, if it's coming from a place of not centeredness, it's only going to lead to more harm.
No, and that's definitely true, of many of my athletes, like looking at the why to begin with, and then also looking at like, is this feasible? Is this a season of life where this particular goal, whatever it may be, is really healthy and feasible right now? Because a lot of people probably, I don't know. A lot of people tell me like, oh, do you run every day? I'm like, no, 3 to 4 days a week. Because yeah, like running 6 days a week is not sustainable for me with my life and schedule. But I think I'm learning to embrace the seasons of rest also, and like take time off of the sport. And that's okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in my own process with that, but just being flexible and even dealing with injuries over the years, right? Like um, learning what is okay, what soreness is okay, and when to take a step back and it's not. Maybe, take off some time, do some walking, do some hiking, do some cycling, something else. You don't always have to run, but yeah, I think so many people will be inspired by your story. How in terms of your exercise routine now, what is your favorite thing to do? Are you still able to do your CrossFit kind of like hit
Yeah,
workouts? Yeah.
I can only tolerate it about once a week. I've
Okay.
found, and so on Wednesdays that's when I do it. Most of my exercise comes from, like I said, hiking, walking,
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So in the mornings, trying to get out with the dog, and so I have a 3-year-old chocolate lab mix, and so she needs that energy expelled. And some days it's a long walk, and some days it's like standing in the backyard and throwing the ball 20 times, and just kind of doing small laps in my backyard.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stretching that I incorporate, whether it's a formal yoga class or it's just me and the kids messing around on the carpet on the floor. And then I
Mhm.
also remind myself, like, we're in the midst of packing, that also is an energy expenditure. And
Yeah.
so, watching how you pick up boxes and when you're packing stuff and moving that, I think we have to, like you said, with the seasons, look at all of that.
Yeah.
You know, I think the one important thing is just to continue to remind myself, like, I am taking care of myself. And
Hmm.
also that pain is not a bad thing. And that's one thing with fibromyalgia that I've had to really learn about is sitting with the pain, not trying to just push it away or, forget about it or numb it out with some other thing. But really getting to know it and to sit with it and to say, like you said, like, so what is this? Is this physical injury? Is this maybe a symptom flare? Is
Hmm.
this you're tired and you're not sleeping, or you're stressed out at work? It's amazing when you finally start to listen to your body, because again, I'm the person who could like not pee all day
Yeah.
and then sit down and like pee out a 2 liter of, like I've ignored my body for so long. Sometimes I think it's like, okay, now it's time to listen. So I would just encourage listeners to start way sooner than that. Start before anything happens, because our bodies are just remarkable machines. They
Hmm.
It really is just so exceptional. And I think we see that in like the people who are ultra runners, just some of the incredible things that they're able to do. And again, like, your journey is your journey. And maybe what I do today will be different what I do a year from now. And that's absolutely okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to shift. It's okay to be flexible. I think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think the take home point is to remember to be gentle with yourself and yeah, just take stock of where you are and don't ignore don't ignore your body. We're
No,
very
don't
good at
ignore your
that.
body. We're so good at that. And also remembering, like, there's no one right way to do this. I
Yeah.
was just talking the other day to a patient. He was interested in like some weight loss, and he's like, "So, what diet do you recommend?" And I was like, "Well, there is no like one recommended diet, friend. Like, I'm sorry. Like, hashtag sorry, not sorry." And I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing, being a runner, like reminding yourself like that there are a lot of other things that you can do,
Yep.
um, to that won't hurt you in your running, but will actually elevate you in other ways.
Mhm.
Um, that I think are really important. And that's just one way that I've looked at it. I'm hoping at some point in the future that running will come back into my life. I haven't given up 100% on it. And so that's, every so often, like I said, try to do a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But also knowing that if it never comes back, there are a million other things that I'm going to do with my body and celebrate my body too.
Love it.
Oh, and I think if there's anybody else out there who is struggling in any aspect of their world, just I encourage you to reach out to Michelle. She is a huge supporter of mine. I know that we check in often and play around with each other on Instagram, and I just remind you that you don't have to do it alone. I think that's another big takeaway from my fibromyalgia journey is really building community around you, because when your strength is spent, that's when you go and ask for help and you get support, and it's so very important. And getting a coach doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just that you want to do it in a better way. And I think Michelle is absolutely wonderful in that. And I just encourage people to reach out. And even if you're like me and you're not, you're a quasi runner, I guess I would call myself, like, that counts. It 100%
It
counts. And I
counts.
know it'd be so welcome in your community.
Yeah, you bet. It definitely counts. And we'll tell everybody where they can find you if they would like to work with you and reach out to you.
Yeah, so I'm the queen of burnout. If you have that feeling that you'd rather be hit by a bus than show up to work, friend, I can help out with that. So you can come over to burnouttobadass.com. That's where I like to put all my sass. Same handle on Instagram. I don't really personally get on any of the other social media sites, but we have a presence there as far as my team's posting. But yeah, I love helping people really lean into the life and the work that they love, because there's no reason to sit around and suffer for the next 30 years of your life just because that's what you said you would always do or you're supposed to do. And so, yeah, come over and join me and hopefully get some fun sass in your life as well. You can check me out on my podcast, Dr. Me First. And then I also have a podcast called Burnt Out to Badass as well.
Both are fabulous podcasts. I take Errin with me in the car. She makes me laugh a lot. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know it will inspire many, and we will catch you all soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.